Hi guys, Henry here. I've made a lot of tutorials in the past focusing on how to manipulate my files in Blender, customizing things, showing them off. But it occurs to me that I've never made a video that's intended for someone who might be completely new to 3D printing and could be curious about what the process looks like to prepare files. So I thought I would show you how to go about printing some 6mm French. I would recommend these as a beginner's model, I mean the entire range of 6mm Napoleonics, because you don't actually need to do any support work or much tinkering with the files. So really this is just showing how to slice essentially. I'm going to begin by pulling some Frenchies into this file, so if you'll just bear with me. The recording software I'm using means that you only see one of my open windows open at a time, so you can't see my file browser right now. But what I've done is I'm navigating to one of my folders and finding some of my pre-made strips for the French. And I'm going to drag some in here now. So the first one is the command strips, a command strip, the front portion. That's just loading in. What I did was I had my file browser open in another window, and I just clicked and dragged, like it says here, drag and drop the file. So here we've got our front rank of our command stand. So I've dragged that in. Now I'm going to drag in the flag party to stand at the back. As you can see, these are pre-barred in Frenchies. They're in shakos, but they've still got the old style coats. Right. This is Litchi Slicer, by the way. It would have been a good place to start. And in Litchi, when you drag something in, it appears in the center. So obviously we're going to want to separate these out. If I click on a model, I get its coordinates down here. The red number is the x-axis, which you can see has a red arrow here. Green number is the y-axis. You can see the arrow here. And then the z-axis is up and down. So to separate these out, I'm going to type something into on the y-axis. I think minus is backwards, if I'm remembering rightly. Minus 2.5. Oh, no, that's forward. Sorry. Let's do 2.5 positive. And then minus 2.5 for the front rank. Because these strips are exactly, I think it's 5mm on the y-axis, it means they're still touching. So I'm just going to separate them out, let's say minus 3 and 3. Just so there's a gap here to make sure that when these print there's a separation between them. So yeah, that's how we move things about. Next I'm going to drag in an infantry strip, some fusiliers and shakos. Just loading that in. There we go. And I'm going to move that on the x-axis. What would that be? My maths is terrible. Each strip is 20mm wide, which means we want minus 11 to have a 1mm separation, I think. Oh, no, my maths truly is minus 21. Oh, God. I got a C in maths at school. I think that shows. Minus 3. And then we go. Now these match up. Another useful thing to know, at least on Litchi Slicer, is if you click a model and you press Alt, or hold Alt, and press D for duplicate, you actually make a duplicate strip, which means I can, again, add something in. There we go, like that. If I select 2, it will duplicate 2. And I can hold left click, drag, select like this, put positive 21 to put them over here together, and then 3, minus 3. Now obviously for the French I want my flank companies. There are flank company figures, so let's get our grenadiers in for the right. In my case I've made mine into 2 strips. Of course when you buy these files you can actually customize the Litchi Slicer files that I created these strips in, so you can put however many you want, but I go for 2 just so I can have like each company being a different color, assuming each company is 4 wide. I know the number of companies varies, and to be honest it confuses me. I'm not a Napoleonic expert, but that's what I went for. So I've got my grenadiers on a 2 strip, and then I want some fusiliers on a 2 strip, which I also have. And I'll just drag in. I think we need them to be 41 to fit, although they're not 20mm wide, so it might not work. No. Take 5 off that. What's 41? Take away 5. Minus 36. Okay, minus 37. I think they're in the end, aren't we? 3. Duplicating. minus 3. It was minus 37, right? I think so. Yeah. Which means this will be 4. Oh god, minus 46. Sorry. Minus 47. Minus 48. There we go. Trial and error got us there in the end. These guys will go on the back rank. And then the last model we need for this end of the battalion is the Fanion Bearers. The Fanion, it's a small flag. These guys would just stand at the end of the formation just to mark where the edge was. What's that? It's minus 48, minus 3. Minus 48, minus 3. Going to do the voltigeurs now. I will put a timestamp in the video description to let you skip past all this, as I appreciate it's not necessarily interesting to watch someone trying to place down, their models, especially since I've already explained the process to you. I'm clicking and dragging in the voltigeurs for the left flank now. Was it 47? No. Yes. 48. 48. Minus 3. That prompt that's just appeared at the top of the screen is asking me if I want to save, so I'll just give you a little hint. Whenever you save a litchi file, go for .lyt. It's a much smaller save file, and the difference is a .lys will save the 3D models as part of the file, so it leads to a bigger file size, whereas a .lyt just saves like the positions of everything, and then each time you open the file, it re-imports them. That's how, when you download one of my products, I always have a .lyt. The first time you open a .lyt, if you've downloaded it, it will try to find the files in the original location it remembers them being, but because it's on a different computer now, you've just downloaded it, it will say that it can't find them. Just follow the prompts to search for the files, and then save it when you're done, and you won't have to do that again. But yeah, sorry, .lyts just alone are much better than SHA-2Box's native format, though it's been a long time since I used SHA-2Box. I still remember sometimes, and I shudder and shiver. Yes, if you're a newbie to 3D printing, and I am incredibly biased, don't use SHA-2Box. It's Chinese rubbish. Anyway, minus 3. Let's just finish these off. Was it minus 38? I think it was, wasn't it? Minus 38. Bleeding hell, positive 38. Numbers are not my thing. 38. 37. Wait. If you make a mistake, like I just did, you can press Ctrl Z for undo. There we go. 37. Minus 3. And 3. Right, and there we go. We have our French line battalion ready to go. So, I've just put a timestamp so people could join me here if they wanted to skip me faffing around before. Now we're going to prep this file for printing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save .lyt. Just saving it to my desktop, calling it example French battalion. You can't see this, sorry. And that's saving. Now, how do we slice something? And what is slicing? I suppose if you're new to 3D printing, I should explain that. Slicing is preparing your 3D file that you have here. You know, you're making your customizations, positioning everything around. It's just translating it from that to a file that your individual printer can read. When you set up Litchi Slicer, you can add pre-made printers or make your own settings, but different printers have different formats. So you see here that I have quite a few. These aren't all mine. This is from when I was working in a print workshop. But for example, this one, the Frozen, produces its files in, I think it's .ctv, which is the same as the Elegoo Mars 2 Pro. Whereas the Anycubic Photon produces files in a .pwma, I think it's called. For this example, I'm going to pretend I'm printing on my Mars 2 Pro. This is my personal printer. You'll see that when you open up all this, you have a whole bunch of settings. Elegoo Mars 2 Pro, I can edit the settings here. Now, I can't really give you some universal rules for the best settings. It's going to vary by your machine. I can just do my best as a not a massive expert just to walk you through what everything is. So first of all, we've got our burn-in layers. Burn-in layers are the initial layers in your prints that go on longer than a usual layer, as in your UV light is on for a longer duration than on a normal layer, so as to make these initial layers adhere to the plate. Because the first layer is, what dictates if the model is going to stick to the plate, and if your model doesn't stick to it and it's going up and down, that's a failed print. So on my printer, I have 5 initial layers that go for 35 seconds, a transitional layer, and one nice thing about Litchi Slicer is you can just mouse over this for an explanation. But a transitional layer is after the initial 5 layers, it will then reduce the exposure duration down to your normal setting, which is over here, incrementally, and that's across how many layers it should do that. I don't use them. It's not really necessary for printing my 6mm, so I haven't really touched it. Light off delay is how long the UV light should be off between each usage. To be honest, I'm not really fully sure of the necessity of this setting. If you just have it like set to 0, then the light just turns on when the build plate's back in position. But if you go online, you can find light off calculators that tell you how to figure out the optimal setting for this. I have this on just judging by what a calculator told me to do based on my other settings. I don't think it does any harm. Might mean slightly longer print times, but there are some people that swear by this as being important. So Google light off delay calculator 3D printing, something like that, and you just type in your other settings. So for now, we'll just say this is contingent on what a calculator tells you to do. Lift distance is how high your build plate gets lifted from the print with each layer. Mine's set to 7mm. You usually see settings between 6 to 10. Obviously, the lower it is, the faster your print will go, but what you're trying to make sure is that when the build plate is pulled away from the bottom of your resin vat, the FEP film is not being pulled up and like not unsticking. That's the purpose of pulling it further away. 7 just seems to be a happy middle number. I can't pretend to have been particularly scientific in everything I've done. 65mm per second lift speed. This, again, we're on the burn-in layer, so this means that for my first 5 layers, my build plate is only moving at 65mm a second. This is my kind of safe setting. It probably could go higher, but I like to be very conservative with my burn-in layers and then move up to something faster later. If you look over here, you'll see that my lift speed is 100mm a second once I'm through my burn-in layers. Retract speed, by the way, down here is just how fast the plate goes back into position. The reason why your lift speed is slower than your retract speed is because while the plate is lifting, your model is potentially still adhered to the FEP film, so you need to sort of carefully lift it off so it unsticks, but then it doesn't matter how fast you return the plate because by the time it's returning, it's not stuck anymore. Now, the important and more debatable setting is your layer thickness. On most printers, this is set by default to 0.05. If you're printing a 6mm, I say 0.02. In my case, any infantry model smaller than 15mm, and any of my ship models, I will always print at 0.02. Some people do 0.05. What this setting actually is the height difference between each layer as it incrementally progresses on your build plate. So, oh, sorry. In this case, the model is sort of stepped in increments of 0.02mm. This is why on a 3D printed model you can see little horizontal lines just progressing along the model. Some people, when they print models that require supports, like 28mm infantry, they'll angle them at 45 degrees with supports because they feel that this best hides this line effect. Obviously my models are designed to be supportless, so they're printed upright standing on their bases. That means that in combination with their small size, you want the smallest layer thickness possible. On my printer, that is 0.02mm. Oh, I'm sorry, I need some water, but I'm trying to do this in one take. The disadvantage of having a low layer thickness is that it'll take longer to print. If I've got a model that's, say, for example, 1 centimeter high, 0.05mm is going to print in how many layers? Why did I choose this example? And I already told you I have bad maths. I think it's 1,000 layers. Is that right? But 0.02mm would be like what? 2,500 layers, I think, like napkin maths. So you're potentially looking at it taking 1.5 times longer to print to print at 0.02. But with these models, the 6 mils, printing time should be just over 3 hours with these settings. Right, okay, gonna leave it there for this and show you how I prep my file. So I've got this profile selected down here. This is all set up, selected. I've set it to 20. Is it sum or I'm not really sure. So now we click on export. And here I've got different options for exporting. I can export this as a 3D file, as an STL. That's what I do when I'm preparing my infantry strips individually. So each strip you see here consisted of individually based models that I pulled onto, well, into Litchi, and I spawned a rectangle from up here, and I made these bases and then exported them as 3D files. But this time we're exporting slice to file. Like I said, for an Elegoo Mars 2 Pro, this is a .ctb. What we would do with this file is we would put it on a flash drive, memory stick, and stick that in a computer. So let's click that now. And I've got a dialog box up asking me where I want to export the file to. I'm just exporting it to my desktop, and I'm clicking save. And what you'll see now is we get a preview of a black screen. This is basically what your printer's screen will look like, layer by layer. So at layer 230 whatever, this is the image that the screen's flashing. The way a resin printer works is it is essentially just a screen at the bottom of a vat of resin that is shooting an image with UV light upwards. And we're seeing it here layer by layer. If something's gone wrong, then your first layer, you'll see nothing, or you should watch this as it's going just to make sure everything looks right, but that all looked right to me. And there we go. I get some information based on the estimated price because I put in how much my resin costs. So it's 11 British pence, which I think is like 18 cents in US dollars, to print this battalion. And the slicer, it always gets this wrong. It thinks it'll be 2 hours, 7 minutes. I think it'll probably be 2.5 hours, but not bad. And if we look at the underside, I should have said this before you slice anything, always good to just look at the bottom and make sure you have green, because this means the model is touching the plate. But yeah, all that went well, and I could now go and print these. Unfortunately, my printer is boxed up in the attic, but yeah. Anyway, if you're new to 3D printing, that is how you go about doing it. If you if you like the models, you can find them on my Mini Factory store or Wargaming 3D. If you want to get in touch, just look for Turner Miniatures on Facebook. Turner Miniatures discussion group being my preferred venue of communication. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'm going to go have a glass of water. Bye!